What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning the pound for pound best in the world. And I'm referring to Terrance Bud Crawford. You know, he is high on that list he's number one on most people's pound for pound list, okay? You know, a lot of people throw that around with Loma and Terrence or Terrence then Loma. Okay, well, you know, he's one on my list, and he's one because not only has he ever lost, he's constantly getting knockouts. He stopped the last two guys at welterweight. His first defense of the WBO title. He's just gained in his fight before last with Jeff Horn. You know, he did something Manny Pacquiao couldn't do successfully. You know, but of course, you know, that's more than meets the eye with that. So don't take that like you're taking a grain of salt, okay? But I was just thinking about, like, why am I so impressed with Terrance Crawford? I'm impressed with Terrance Crawford because Terrance Crawford is the person, even though at 30 years of age, he's still wanting to fight the best fighters. And the similarities between him and Floyd Prettyboy Mayweather. Okay, the similarities are simple. Let's track back. This is 2019, yeah? All right. Let's go back to 2009. This is when Floyd Money Mayweather emerged. Floyd's been around a long time. But before that, you had 2008, 2007, so maybe close to 11, 12 years ago. Floyd hadn't got his defining fight yet. He was with Bob Arum in thinking 2006, and he left Bob Arum, and then he got a fight with Arturo Gatti, which Bob Arum, he claims, still owes him money. However, that's when he was on pay-per-view. That's when he was able to shine. And it wasn't the fact that he didn't have the talent. It was the fact that he didn't have the exposure and didn't have access for the exposure. That's where Terrance Crawford's at right now. Terrance Crawford is looking for the best fights, whereas Prettyboy wanted the best fights in his prime, in his heyday, but couldn't get them. Okay? That's where Terrance Crawford's at right now. And like Crawford, Floyd wanted the biggest fights. He wanted the best fights. He wanted the Princess Meds. He wanted the Costa Zoos. He wanted the Eric Moraleses. You got to remember that, guys. Eric Morales, he was a Bob Arum guy. Floyd Mayweather, Oscar De La Hoya was a Bob Arum guy. Okay, he promoted all these fighters that he didn't promote Barrera, I don't believe. But he wanted Barrera too because those guys were the known names of the little people. Okay, they were at 122, then 126, and they gradually went up. Now remember, Prettyboy started at 125. Okay, he was a featherweight. Well, they wouldn't allow him any of those fights. He didn't get any of them. Okay, and honestly, what it was, you just had so many talented guys. You know what I mean? The list was just endless. Think about it. Roy Jones, Oscar De La Hoya, Felix Trinidad, Ike Corte, David Reed, Fernando Vargas. You had all these guys, you know, and from welterweight on down. Then you had the Gattis and, you know, the Costa Zoos and the Julio Cesar Chavez, the legend. You had all these guys ahead of him. Okay? Sugar Shane Mosley. You couldn't, Sugar Shane Mosley was probably the best lightweight ever. So it was hard to really stick out with those guys there. It's a little different now. We have talent now in the present, but it was nothing like back then. Floyd had a far more difficult chance trying to stick out amongst all these guys. And he's yelling, dude, I'm the best, but he couldn't prove that he's the best. And when he got the opportunity to prove he was the best, he metamorphed in this Money Mayweather. And I'm not going to talk about that too much, but I'm just talking about the similarities of Terrance Crawford. Now we look at Terrance Crawford and cross compare Prettyboy to Terrance Crawford. He has the same spirit. It's almost like a reincarnated version of Prettyboy, that Prettyboy DNA, okay? But Terrance never lost it. Terrance never got to the point where, hey, you know what? I need to break loose from Bob Arum. I don't think Bob Arum has my best interest. I don't think, and a lot of times I don't think he really does. I think he takes Terrance for granted. But Terrance, you can tell, is not greedy. Terrance was that spirit of Prettyboy before Prettyboy got corrupted and turned into Money Mayweather. You know, Terrance is this guy that wants to fight the best, looking for the best. You think you're better than me? Let's see. You know, and I'm saying the spirit of Prettyboy, actually, you know, it's a little bit of Roy Jones Jr. in there too, now that I think about it, okay? Because Roy was exactly like that, you know, and I kind of touched on that in a video, but Roy was that guy. He wanted to be at the top and only him and him alone, okay? He beat everyone. The first loss that he acquired, right? It ended in a knockout because he knocked out Griffin, okay? Montel Griffin, he knocked this guy out, and then Montel, you know, he pulled the bitch move. He looked at the ref and he laid down on the canvas like he couldn't continue, and he won by getting knocked out. You know, and he was giving Roy some problems. The only guy with that awkward style to give Roy some problems, but Roy finally got him, and then guess what? He avenged that loss by knocking him out in the first round with an uppercut. Okay, Terrance Crawford has that type of tenacity. I don't know about necessarily skill set, but he is a very gifted fighter because everyone has their own set of skills. So that's kind of unfair to compare skills. You know what I mean? We just know they have superb skills. That's Roy, that's Floyd, that's Terrance too. You know, and he still wants to fight the best. Look at Khan. See, Khan is, I believe, if this fight gets made, which I'm hoping it gets made, Khan is that guy with a name. Khan is the representation of an Arturo Gatti was to Floyd, okay? He was that guy that he finally was, you know, that this is his official coming out party. Because Gatti had a name. Gatti was, you know, known all over. You know, Canada, Eastern Seaboard, all types of fights. Vegas, he was known. He made a lot of money. Gatti made a good money because he was a fan-friendly fighter. You know, and he had the belts and he was a decent guy. He was a blood and guts warrior. And Floyd knew, I need to get in the ring with him. It wasn't a question of that he could beat him or not. You saw the fight. We saw the fight. And I love Arturo Gatti. I hate to see that fight. But then again, for a while, I wouldn't watch that fight, guys. I would not watch it. I have friends this is years ago. Friends like, hey, man, you see Arturo Gatti and Mayweather? Nah. Because you see the highlights, and watching the highlights is like watching the whole fight. You know what I mean? Because Floyd picked him to pieces. He picked him to pieces. Okay? And it was like, wow. But it wasn't the fact that Floyd was worried about losing. It was the fact that, hey, he had to get that fight to get to a certain level. So he had to get the Gatti fight. Then from the Gatti fight, then he had to get the De La Hoya fight. And from the De La Hoya fight, that was the creme de la creme. He had to get the golden goose. He had to get the golden boy. He had to get Niño de Oro. He had to get Oscar De La Hoya. Because without that, he couldn't have cocooned into money. And it's a sad thing that he did. It really is, because that's a totally different person. You know, and I understand why he did what he did. That's another story, okay? Somewhat. But Terrance Crawford is showing you, it being 30 years of age, that not only he's the same person, he has the same humbleness. He's, you know, he has the same mean streak. Don't talk shit at Terrance Crawford and expect, oh, he's going to stay quiet and not say nothing. He's not an Anthony Joshua, okay? He's not one of those guys. He will get in your shit too. You push him, he's going to push back. Look what he did to Benavidez when Benavidez gave him a little love shove, right? He tried to take his head off. That's Terrance Crawford. But Terrance Crawford is one of those guys, if he wins, loses, or draws, he always have my respect. And that's how Prettyboy was. Prettyboy wanted to take on those guys and got frozen out. Look what's happened to Terrance now. Let's talk about that. Look at the PBC. Sean Porter, Keith Thurman, Errol Spence. These guys are avoiding him like the fucking plague of the 21st century. You know what I'm saying? That's what they're doing. They're acting like, oh man, no, you in the wrong promotional company. But I have my own promotional team. Stuff like that. Keith Thurman don't want none, but they still talk about him. Sean Porter, oh, I gotta fulfill my mandatories. I'm just freshly becoming a champion. I can't do none of that. Unification, I can't. What what? I can't do that. So they're not trying to fight, man. And then Khan knows that it's his do or die fight also. It's the fight that would put him on pound for pound, that would put him over Manny, that would put him over Floyd. Two guys that, that he missed that opportunity. Came close, but not enough, right? But that's Khan. Back to Terrence Crawford. This is a fight that I'm really happy that is almost being made because, again, this is his Gatti fight. This is the fight to show everyone like, hey, I'm in the welterweight division and I'm here to stay. You can talk about me all you want. If you can beat me, sign the contract, step in the ring with me and see the best pound for pound, pick your ass apart. That's Terrence Crawford now. Prettyboy was just like that. Prettyboy Mayweather was just like that. He would take on anybody. If you guys go back, all we need to do is go back on YouTube's. And you know what? I'm going to do you guys a favor. I'm going to do a little research. Give me a little time. But I'm going to put below in the description box examples of how Prettyboy was tenacious, was very ferocious, very eager, okay, hungry to get in the ring with the best. He wanted Princess Ahmed. He wanted Eric Morales. Those guys, no, Bob Arum didn't want to do that. Bob Arum didn't want to match Floyd up with him. That's like Bob Arum didn't want to really match Terrance Crawford up with Manny Pacquiao. You see what I'm saying? Because he knew, like, no, I don't want those two dudes fighting. Just like Don King didn't want Trinidad to get in there with Chavez Sr. You know what I mean? He didn't want that to happen. But what it really did in return, people were cheated out of very good fights. And that could have been the legacy that Prettyboy would have had and obtained in the smaller weight classes. So Prettyboy was forced to go up. Okay, Terrence was more than less. He did everything that he could possibly do. He did something that Prettyboy or Money Mayweather wasn't possible to do, because by the time Prettyboy turned into money, he was no longer worried about legacy as far as accolades. He was worried about money. And that's what happened to Floyd. He fell in love with the money instead of the love of the sport of fighting the best in the division. And that's the saddest thing about Money Mayweather to me personally. So a lot of people think I give Mayweather shit. That's just how I feel, because I think he has the potential in the technique and the skill set to do it. But does you have the heart or the mind or the desire to want to fight the best? But Terrence Crawford has that. That's why Terrence Crawford hasn't lost that spirit, that same Prettyboy spirit, the one that I think is somewhere deep down in Money Mayweather. But Terrence Crawford still has it. He might have passed the torch on to Terrence Crawford, because if you notice, Floyd doesn't say shit bad about Terrence Crawford. Now, he will say, hey, Terrence Crawford's a hell of a fighter, but nobody knows who they are. And he says that on the terms of his star power. Nowhere near him. Everybody knows Floyd, right? But not a lot of people know Terrence Crawford. And I think that's what he meant by that. But he doesn't hate on Terrence Crawford at all, And if I was Floyd, I would try to encourage, Terrence, which I don't want him to really corrupt my brother, because, you don't want him acting like AB or all the other guys that Floyd magically fought, and they all picked up this crazy doctrine, right? Like they got infected with the Floyd disease. I just don't want to fight nobody unless it's millions and millions and millions. You know what I mean? But anyway, I think Terrence is, he has that same spirit. And that's why I like him so much. So I had to think about why I like this guy, as much as I do. You know what I mean? Because, he wants to fight the best. The only guy that's willing to fight anyone, it doesn't matter, anytime, right? It doesn't matter. Get your ass in the ring. Love it. That's the spirit of boxing. That's why I love boxing, the sport that I love, that I hate so much. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think about this video between the comparison of Prettyboy Floyd Mayweather and Terrence Bud Crawford, and the similarities and the differences. Okay, guys. Well, of course, please subscribe. And you guys been counterpunched. Peace.